Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Munif Kilani. I'm the Economic and Commercial Counselor at the Belgian Embassy representing Brussels and based in London. My presentation today is to talk about Brussels and why and how to choose Brussels as destination for your company. When we talk about Brussels, most of the time we think Brussels is the EU institution. Brussels is the place where Brexit is prepared. Brussels is the place where the restrictions, regulations, all the problems are coming. Okay, Brussels is not only that. Brussels is a region, a city with a population of more than 1 million inhabitants. Brussels is a region, one of the three regions composing the whole Belgian federal system. It's a city, a region composed from different ethnics, different languages, different nationalities, different very cosmopolitan place. It's of course the capital of Europe, but it's not only the capital of Europe where all the decision making are there. It's a place with its own open economy, and above all, it's at the crossroads of cultures between the Latin, the Germanic, and the Anglo-Saxon one. Why to choose Brussels will be my part of the presentation, and then once you have decided to consider Brussels as destination, the second step will be presented by my colleague Maddie, is how to set up your business in Brussels. Why to choose Brussels? Of course, first, because of its location at the heart of Europe, because it's the place where you have European and international decision-making institutions, because Brussels offers a very international talent pool and innovation, because Brussels is very well ranked on European but also on international level, because Brussels can give you a very good quality and competitive real estate facilities, because of the high quality of life in Brussels is very well demanded for you and for your expat staff, and because in Brussels you can get access to a very business-friendly tax system. Location at the heart of Europe. Of course, everyone says we are at the heart of Europe, but let me tell you one thing. With very good connections in Brussels, by road, by sea, by air, you are able to reach all the other places within Europe. For example, with the high-speed train, you can reach Paris in 1 hour and 20 minutes. You can reach London and Amsterdam in less than 2 hours. You can reach Frankfurt in 3 hours. In Brussels, there are two main airports. One big international airport at 12 kilometers far from the city center, with more than 200 passenger connections, with a hub dedicated only to cargo, and very well ranked internationally by IATA, for example, as Center of Excellence for Pharmaceuticals. So if you look at this map, you will see that being in Brussels is really being at the center of Europe with equal distance to London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Paris. And within a distance of 500 kilometers or 750 kilometers, you will reach 75% of the EU market in terms of GDP, and you will reach 40% of the consumers within Europe. Being in Brussels gives you access to the EU institutions, to the Council of European Union, the European Parliament, the European Commission, the European Economic and Social Committee, the Committee of Regions, where all the big decisions and lobbying are made. Of course, Brussels is not only hosting the EU institutions, but also, for example, a big regional institution like NATO. It's the place for more than 1,500 foreign journalists. It's the place for more than 1,500 international associations and more than 5,000 diplomats. Of course, being in Brussels gives you access to the EU decision makers, to the EU institution, financial instruments, but also to important tender markets. Of course, these are some of the reasons why more than 1,500 foreign companies have chosen Brussels as their European headquarters for sales and subsidiaries. That's why Brussels have been selected or ranked as the fifth FDI destination within Europe, according to the EY studies. Brussels can offer you a very international talent pool and innovation. If you look at this table, you will see that between 2005 and 2020, Belgium passed from the ninth place in terms of innovation to the third place, giving you a better idea about the importance of innovation and all the job done in this field. Brussels and Belgium in general can give you access to a very talented staff. If you like to look at this study prepared by the IMD, you'll see that Belgium is on the second place, just behind Switzerland and far before different big countries in terms of talents. Also, let me tell you something. Brussels is officially bilingual. In Brussels, we speak French and Dutch. It's part of the Belgian system where three languages are official, French, Dutch, and German. Most of the time in the business, as a compromise and just to avoid any sensitivities here and there, people speak English widely because it's considered as the English as the business language in Belgium, like everywhere else in the world. Preparing a good talent is also preparing a good education system and schooling system. According to the Global Competitiveness Report prepared by the World Economic Forum, Belgium was at the second place in the primary education, at the fifth place on the educational system, in the third place for math and science, and again on the second place for management school, and this comparing Belgium to other neighboring countries like Netherlands, Germany, France, and the UK. Brussels is a global destination. It's the first European Congress city. It's the second international Congress city just after New York. It's the first leading city for foreign diplomatic representation. But also, Brussels is the first European city for human potential and lifestyle. It's the second European city in terms of languages spoken, and I just explained the multilingual system in Belgium and Brussels in particular. It's the third European city for economic potential, according to the FT. Let's come to something very, very sensitive for any investor choosing location. It's real estate costs. You know, in Brussels, if you look for a prime office location, you can get a rent for 300 more or less euro per square meter per year. Just a little bit more expensive than Barcelona and much cheaper than London, Paris, or Zurich. In terms of warehouse, for example, you are again on the second place, just after Antwerp and far before London, Munich, and Frankfurt. But when you look for real estate, you look for, of course, renting an apartment for letting an apartment for your staff. And let's give an example. If you look for 120 square meter apartments, you are in Brussels around more maximum 1,500, where you compare with London, Paris, and Munich, it's much more expensive. All these to say that Brussels is affordable in terms of cost of living. The business-friendly tax system, I'll give you this map just to give an idea comparing Belgium to other European places and countries. And you'll see that Belgium is ranked on the fifth place in terms of tax system. I'll not go into details because my colleague Maddie will talk more about all the tax system in Belgium. But of course, being in Belgium, being in Brussels, doesn't mean taking care of the education only. You are looking for healthcare system. And in Belgium, the healthcare system is very well advanced and very well ranked in terms of services, in terms of accessibility, in terms of outcome, just behind Netherlands compared to other European places. Let's come to the second part of the presentation made by my colleague Maddie about how to set up your business.
Thank you, Munif, for this introduction. As Munif said, now we are going into the more technical and specific side of this presentation. So how to set up in Brussels. There are a number of steps that you need to know in order for you to set up your business in Brussels. And here we explore at least 9. So it's quite straightforward, don't worry. First of all, you will need to draft your financial plan, which a projection of the cash flow for the first 2 years. Just so you know, there is no control on the financial plan, except in case of bankruptcy within the first 3 years. The draft of the deed of incorporation needs to be done with the details of the company. So everything that is related to the company, the name, the address, the purpose, directors, the capital of the incorporation, etc. You will need to provide at least a degree of at least one director in order to verify the skills and the management, the experience that the manager has, just to certify that that this is that this can be approved. The shareholders need to provide their identity, obviously, so the passport ID are required. And if the shareholder is a foreign company, it needs to you will need to provide the bylaws of this company. Another important step is opening the Belgian bank account. You will probably know this because you might have already a company in the UK and you know that you have to set up your bank account. So we can help you with that. We can suggest banks you can set up your account. You will need to be physically present to open the bank account, but if that is a problem because of the pandemic or any other issues, we can also suggest other ways to do that. You will need to register the company with the Crossroads Bank for Enterprises. It's a directory of Belgium, where all the companies are listed, and this entity will create an enterprise number. The deed of incorporation needs to be certified with the notary, with a lawyer then. So the notary will be a lawyer who certifies the publication in the official gazette. And from that moment, the company will be active. And another important step that you need to know is that once you have your enterprise number, you need to activate the VAT. All this process is digital, and we can help you with that. There are a number of mandatory affiliations that you need to know once you set up your company, such as occupational accident insurance, child benefit fund, director's liability insurance. So these are overall the main steps for you to set up the company in Brussels. There are mainly two types of companies that get created in Brussels. The most common one is the private limited liability company, just because Brussels is a hub for most medium-sized companies, so this type of company is more common. You won't need a minimum capital for the private limited liability company because it's based on the financial plan. You need one shareholder at a minimum, obviously, yeah, so the entry or exit of the shareholders is a regulated freedom to transfer shares. In terms of management, you will need to have a minimum of one director. And for the annual accounts, they are mandatory, and it's a responsibility of the board of directors. The dividends distribution is based on approved annual accounts. If instead you have big size companies, it's probably suggested to it's better for you to open a public limited liability company, which has a minimum capital of 61,500 euros. You still need one minimum of shareholder, and in terms of management, the number of members is quite flexible. You have three options. So it could be a minimum of 3 or 2 shareholders, or it could be just one director, or it could be a two-tier management. So supervisory board, minimum of 3 members, or management board, which is also a minimum of 3 members. And as goes for the private limited liability company, the annual accounts are mandatory, and it's the responsibility of the board of directors. And the dividends distribution is also based on approved annual accounts. We listed here some one-off incorporation costs, just because we think it's quite useful for investors to know more or less what are the costs required to set up the company in Brussels. As I mentioned in my first slide, so you will need to to activate the publication of the incorporation in the official gazette, and that as a cost, which is between 230 and 284 euros, depending on the type of platform you use, if it is digital or in paper. Probably now it will be better to do everything in digital, but we can look that with you together. The notary, the lawyer that need to certify the incorporation as a cost, obviously, and we think it's between 900 and 1,300 euros based on the notaries we work with and we suggest. It will depend who you will work with, but this is an average cost. The registration at the Crossroad Bank for Enterprise also has a cost, and it's 89 euros, 90 euros approximately. The activation of VAT number is 65 euros and 55. So these are just general costs. There might be other costs involved, but we can look at that specifically case by case. So Brussels is a very interesting hub for research and development companies because as a number of grants and opportunities for this sector. So here we listed some of the most important ones. You want to, obviously, you know that the Brussels is as 2 types of grants, which could be regional or at European level, and this makes it even more interesting. But another important incentive is the 80% exemption of payroll withholding tax, and is available for universities, scientific institutes, young companies, and commercial companies. The maximum effective tax rate of 3.75%. So 85% deduction of the net qualifying intellectual property income multiplied by nexus ratios. The intellectual property investments can be fully amortized. So everything that is intangible, like goodwill, customer lists, patent, trademarks, based on their useful life. The investment deduction for research and development in qualifying assets amounted to 13.5% up to 20.5%. And the investment deduction can be converted into a tax credit for R&D and patents, and the unused credit can be refunded after 5 years. So you can see that there are lots of opportunities for R&D. We can explore these together if you're interested, and we are happy to do that in a conference call or in a meeting. We have an interesting welcome package for companies that want to set up in Brussels and are interested in having an address for a limited time. So we have a 3-month cost-free hosting in our core working space in the office in the core of Brussels, a very nice area. And there you can have a free internet access, meeting rooms, conference rooms. So if you're interested for 3 months to have your address at our office, please let us know, and we are happy to tell you more about it. But yeah, for today, that's all. Here are our details. If you are interested in getting in touch, please email us here at our addresses. And I will be more than happy to set up a conference call or have a meeting if we can, and we can talk this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Just to finish, let me explain in few words some idea about the ecosystem, economic ecosystem in Brussels. Brussels is focusing more on services and R&D. Of course, because it has a limited place, we don't have places for big industries. We are targeting more little industries. However, being in Brussels can give you an access equally to Wallonia and Flanders, where you can guarantee a big facility, big space, and all this. But in terms of focusing sectors, we target mainly services, retail, all these sectors, for example, but also R&D in all fields, medical and other, IT, any digital services like fintech, edutech, insurtech, medtech, all these fields. Recently, in terms of services, we were quite successful in fields like insurance and financial services, e-pay, and all this, for example. And as mentioned by Maddie, we will be more than happy to help you during the one-to-one, or even later on if we can communicate by email or by sharing the information. Thank you very much.